Welcome to Profit in Frames, your home for the financial autopsy of horror and psychological thrillers. Tonight, we're dissecting another nightmare, carving into the movie budget, the box office numbers, and the shocking profit behind the fear. Let's begin the operation.
Before we begin the breakdown, let's answer the question on everyone's mind. For all of you asking where to watch Saw 2004, the most common place to stream it is currently on Hulu. Now, if you don't have Hulu and need to figure out where to watch this movie, it's always available to rent or purchase from services like Amazon Prime Video and Apple TV. So to be clear, your best bet for where to watch Saw 2004 is streaming it on Hulu. In the classic hit Saw 2004, starring Cary Elwes as Dr. Lawrence Gordon and Leigh Whannell as Adam Stanheight, and directed by a then-unknown James Wan, now best known for creating the Conjuring universe, audiences in 2004 experienced a landmark release from production company Twisted Pictures and distributor Lionsgate. This wasn't just another entry in the horror genre. It was a psychological thriller that ripped up the rulebook, a genre-defining classic that changed the financial model for independent horror forever. Even years later, this cult classic is still compared to other major films and franchises, not just cerebral thrillers like David Fincher's C7N, but also to other indie phenomena like the Blair Witch Project, showing its lasting impact on global cinema and its perennial popularity on streaming platforms like Hulu, Peacock, and Amazon Prime. For movie lovers and cinema fans everywhere, the story of Saw 2004 is the ultimate underdog tale, a fan-favorite movie that became one of the most profitable box office hits of all time. The film's creation is the stuff of Hollywood legend, a perfect piece of movie trivia for any film enthusiast. Director James Wan and writer-star Leigh Whannell were two ambitious Australian filmmakers who, to get their script noticed, shot a short film based on one of the movie's most terrifying scenes. That raw, visceral proof of concept was their ticket to securing funding from Twisted Pictures. What they created was a masterpiece of tension. The plot summary of Saw 2004 is deceptively simple. Two men wake up chained in a disgusting bathroom with a dead body between them, forced to play a sadistic game to survive. But the film's brilliant, nonlinear structure unfolds a complex mystery around them, a narrative that is constantly one step ahead of the audience. The genre of Saw 2004 is a unique blend of survival horror, mystery, and psychological thriller, a combination that felt incredibly fresh in a landscape dominated by supernatural J-horror remakes like The Grudge. This unique approach is why Saw 2004 is still one of the most rewatchable movies for horror fans, who love to go back and search for clues they missed the first time. The cast of Saw 2004 was a strategic mix of talent. We have Leigh Whannell as Adam Stanheight, the photographer whose investigation into the Jigsaw 2004 killer leads to his own capture, and Cary Elwes as Dr. Lawrence Gordon, a surgeon with secrets of his own. Elwes, famous for The Princess Bride, gave the film a recognizable face that helped lend it credibility. They are supported by veteran actor Danny Glover as Detective David Tapp, an obsessed cop hunting the killer, and of course, the chillingly understated Tobin as John Kramer, who would become the iconic villain Jigsaw 2004. The strength of these performances grounds the film's horrifying concept in a believable reality. For anyone looking for movie breakdowns or a video titled Saw 2004 Explained, the film's shocking twist ending is the main event, a moment that sparked endless movie spoilers discussion and cemented its place on countless movie ranking lists of the greatest endings of all time. The cinematic masterpiece of Saw 2004 is not in its budget, but in its brains, a testament to the power of a killer concept executed with ruthless precision by director James Wan. Now let's pull back the grimy curtain and look at the financial architecture of Saw 2004, which is arguably even more brilliant than its narrative. From an investor's perspective, this film is a masterclass in risk mitigation and explosive returns. The foundation of its entire success is its astonishingly low production budget, which is officially reported at just $1.2 million. To put that number into perspective, the average studio horror film at the time, like Sony's The Grudge, was made for around $10 million. Mainstream blockbusters were costing well over $100 million. This micro-budget, achieved through a brutally efficient 18-day shoot in a single location, fundamentally altered the film's financial equation. It created an incredibly low bar for success, a critical factor when forecasting its potential ROI, return on investment. Lower initial investment means the global gross forecast required to break even is tiny, making the potential upside for investors astronomical. The financing structure is another key piece of this financial puzzle. Saw 2004 was not a product of the major studio system. It was financed independently by Twisted Pictures, a production company that took a gamble on two unknown filmmakers. This is a crucial distinction. Because they financed it themselves, the producers and creators retained a massive ownership stake in the intellectual property. When distributor Lionsgate acquired the film, they were buying into a pre-existing asset. This means that when the film became a colossal hit, the original investors saw 2004, the equity stake valuation of their initial, modest investment explode in value. Unlike a studio-financed film where the corporation reaps 100% of the rewards, the independent model of Saw 2004 created a new group of industry power players overnight, all because they controlled the equity. This structure is a dream scenario for independent creators, and Saw 2004 is its ultimate success story. The film's monetization streams were the channels that turned this low-cost asset into a cash-printing machine. First and most visible was the theatrical release, which grossed over $100 million worldwide. But in 2004, the DVD market was at its absolute peak, and Saw 2004 was a home video juggernaut, selling millions of units to fans who wanted to re-experience the twist ending. International sales were also incredibly strong. Each of these successful streams continuously forced analysts to revise the global gross forecast upwards, from a hopeful niche success to a global phenomenon. Every dollar that came in past the break-even point which, given the low budget, was likely achieved in its first 2 days of release, dramatically improved the film's profitability metrics. This is how the equity stake valuation of the Saw 2004 IP went from being worth slightly more than its production budget to being valued in the tens, and eventually hundreds of millions of dollars. The initial global gross forecast was likely a modest, $10 million, but the film's quality and marketing shattered that projection, leading to an ROI return on investment of over 8,500% on the production budget alone, a figure that is almost unparalleled in modern cinema and a testament to the staggering financial power of a low-budget, high-concept masterpiece. When we do a movie breakdown of a cult classic like Saw 2004, the conversation often centers on the shocking plot and the ingenious traps, but the performances of the cast are the critical element that sells the terror and makes the audience believe in the unbelievable. The cast of Saw 2004 was assembled not for star power, but for talent and affordability, a strategy that ultimately paid off in spades. At the center of the nightmare are the two leads. Leigh Whannell as Adam Stanheight, the cynical photographer who serves as the audience's surrogate, and Cary Elwes as Dr. Lawrence Gordon, the seemingly perfect surgeon whose secrets are a key to the puzzle. For movie fans who grew up with Cary Elwes as the heroic Wesley in the timeless movie The Princess Bride, seeing him in such a gritty, desperate role was a brilliant piece of casting against type. It immediately gave the independent film a layer of credibility and intrigue. Leigh Whannell, who also wrote the screenplay for Saw 2004, brought an incredible authenticity to Adam's panic and paranoia, a performance that only the story's creator could deliver. The supporting cast of Saw 2004 is a collection of incredible character actors who each make a lasting impression. We have the legendary Danny Glover as Detective David Tapp, a world-weary cop who becomes obsessed with the Jigsaw 2004 case. Glover is one of the best movies of cast veterans, and his presence added a sense of gravitas to the police procedural side of the story, making the hunt for the killer feel grounded and real. His performance is a huge reason why the film works as both a claustrophobic thriller and a gripping mystery. And then there's the man who would become the face of the franchise, Tobin Bell as John Kramer. In the first Saw 2004 movie, he spends 99% of his screen time lying motionless on the floor, a piece of movie trivia that fans love to share. Yet in those final shocking minutes, his chilling delivery and imposing presence instantly created a horror icon. His performance is a masterclass in economy, proving that you don't need a lot of screen time to steal the entire movie. Casting choices for Saw 2004 were a stark departure from the typical horror films of the era. While competitor actors in other horror hit movies were often young, up-and-coming stars from television, the cast of Saw 2004 was filled with seasoned professionals who could deliver intense, dramatic performances. This decision gave the film a more serious and adult tone, which helped it stand out. There was no casting news fanfare for Saw 2004. It was an under-the-radar production, and the cast was assembled based on who was right for the role and who was willing to work for a modest fee on a passion project. The chemistry between Cary Elwes as Dr. Lawrence Gordon and Leigh Whannell as Adam Stanheight is a tense, frayed, and utterly believable portrayal of two strangers forced into an impossible situation. For movie lovers looking for a rewatchable movie, going back to Saw 2004 and watching these performances, knowing the final twist, adds a whole new layer of appreciation for the actors' craft and the subtle clues they laid throughout the film. From a financial analyst's perspective, the casting of Saw 2004 is a perfect illustration of how to build a multi-million-dollar asset on a shoestring budget, and the entire strategy revolves around one of the most powerful tools in independent film financing: back-end participation. In a typical blockbuster, a significant portion of the production budget is consumed by massive upfront actor salaries, but for a micro-budget film like Saw 2004, that was simply not an option. Instead of offering large paychecks, the producers offered the cast a stake in the film's success. This is the essence of back-end participation. In exchange for a much lower upfront salary, the actors receive points, which is a percentage of the film's net profits. This brilliantly aligns the interests of the talent with the interests of the investors. Everyone is incentivized to make the best possible film because everyone shares in the financial upside if it becomes a hit. This model has a profound impact on the initial casting risk. By minimizing the upfront actor salaries, the producers dramatically lowered the film's fixed operating expenses. Total compensation for the entire cast of Saw 2004 likely accounted for less than $300,000 of the $1.2 million budget. Even the established stars, Cary Elwes and Danny Glover, would have taken a significant pay cut, likely receiving a modest upfront fee, with the real prize being their back-end participation deal. This low upfront cost meant that even if Saw 2004 had been a complete box office failure, the financial loss would have been minimal. The casting risk was almost entirely mitigated. The actors were betting on the quality of the script and the vision of the filmmakers, and the producers were betting on the talent. It was a shared risk, shared reward model that is the lifeblood of independent cinema. The return on this bet was astronomical, and it perfectly demonstrates the incredible potential of the star power ROI when it's tied to back-end participation. Tobin Bell is the ultimate example. His upfront salary for the first Saw 2004 was likely SAG minimum, perhaps only a few $1,000s. However, his back-end participation in a franchise that has grossed over $1 billion would have turned that tiny initial investment of his time into a multi-million-dollar payday over the life of the franchise. For Cary Elwes and Danny Glover, their involvement gave the film the credibility it needed to secure distribution. Their star power ROI was immense for the producers. For a relatively small slice of the back-end, they got the names they needed to get the film sold. The actors, in turn, saw 2004, their back-end participation pay off handsomely when the film exploded. It's a win-win scenario that a traditional high-salary, no back-end model can never offer. Ultimately, the strategic use of back-end participation was not just a cost-saving measure. It was the financial bedrock upon which the entire franchise valuation was built. By keeping the initial costs low, the film became profitable almost instantly, which made the decision to greenlight a sequel a no-brainer for Lionsgate. The actors who had signed on for back-end participation were now partners in a burgeoning franchise, incentivized to return for future installments. This model created a loyal and invested creative team. For any investor analyzing the financial structure of Saw 2004, the lesson is clear. Back-end participation is a powerful tool to de-risk a project, attract top-tier talent for a fraction of the cost, and create a shared sense of ownership that can turn a small, independent film into a global, billion-dollar phenomenon. The financial success of Saw 2004 is a direct result of this smart, talent-friendly, and incredibly profitable compensation strategy. If you strip away the gore and the grim, the absolute heart of Saw 2004's enduring legacy is its story. This is a film that is so much more than its gruesome reputation suggests. It is a brilliantly constructed puzzle box, a masterwork of franchise-level storytelling that was designed to shock, thrill, and above all, make you think. For anyone searching for a movie title, plot summary, it begins with a terrifyingly simple and effective premise. Two men wake up in a locked room with no memory of how they got there, and are told that one must kill the other to save his family. But that's just the surface. A true story breakdown of Saw 2004 reveals a complex, nonlinear narrative that constantly keeps the audience off balance. The screenplay analysis of Leigh Whannell's script shows a story that operates on multiple tracks simultaneously: the claustrophobic horror in the bathroom, the desperate police investigation on the outside, and a series of flashbacks that slowly and methodically fill in the pieces of the mystery. This narrative breakdown is what elevates Saw 2004 from a simple horror film to a top-tier psychological thriller, much like similar movies such as David Fincher's C7N. The film's genre is a fascinating hybrid. It's a mystery, a thriller, and a horror film all in one, but its central movie themes are surprisingly philosophical. The villain, Jigsaw 2004, doesn't see himself as a murderer. His twisted moral code is built on the idea of forcing people who he believes are ungrateful for their lives to prove their will to survive through horrific games. This central theme of appreciating one's life, delivered through the most brutal means imaginable, gives the film a dark, intellectual core that has sparked endless movie discussion and debate among fans. The story is a relentless machine of suspense, with the performances of Cary Elwes and Leigh Whannell perfectly capturing the rising panic and paranoia of their characters as they try to outwit their unseen tormentor. Now let's talk about the main event, the part of Saw 2004 that turned it from a clever thriller into a cinematic legend, the ending. For anyone searching for the Saw 2004 ending explained, it is one of the most perfectly executed twist endings in modern film history. Throughout the film, we are led to believe that the man behind the game is a hospital orderly named Zepp. In the film's climax, Zepp is seemingly defeated, but then the real twist happens. The dead body that has been lying in the center of the bathroom floor for the entire movie, the one we had all forgotten about, slowly begins to rise. A major Saw 2004 spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it. This was the true Jigsaw 2004 killer John Kramer in the room with them the entire time, orchestrating everything. As he utters the iconic line, "Game over," and slams the door, the audience is left in a state of stunned silence. This twist ending is the film's secret weapon. It's the moment that sparked massive word of mouth, the cliffhanger that had audiences buzzing and guaranteed that a sequel was not just possible, but necessary. There is no Saw 2004 post-credit scene. The film's abrupt, terrifying finality is the perfect conclusion. This shocking reveal fueled countless Saw 2004 fan theories about Jigsaw 2004's identity and motives, with fans online piecing together clues that were hidden in plain sight, a testament to the script's clever construction. From a purely financial perspective, the screenplay for Saw 2004 is the single most valuable asset in the entire franchise. It is the blueprint for a billion-dollar empire, and its genius lies in its perfect balance of high-concept creativity and low-cost executability. The initial script development cost for Saw 2004 was almost non-existent. Because it was an original screenplay written by one of its creators, Leigh Whannell, there was no expensive script acquisition cost, which for a popular novel or pre-existing IP could easily range from $500,000 to over $2 million. This immediately gave the project an incredibly favorable risk-return ratio. The investment was in the time and creative energy of its authors, not in a multi-million-dollar bidding war. This efficiency in the development phase is a cornerstone of profitable independent filmmaking, and was the first and most important step in maximizing the final story development ROI. However, the script was not without its creative risk. The story's dark, nihilistic tone, its graphic violence, and its shocking, downbeat ending were all significant commercial gambles. The mainstream audience could have easily rejected such a grim film. This creative risk is a major factor that investors have to weigh. A controversial story can limit a film's box office potential and scare away advertisers. But in the case of Saw 2004, this risk was perfectly offset by the script's low production cost. The two guys in a room concept meant that even if the film only appealed to a niche audience, it was still almost guaranteed to be profitable. This brilliant alignment of creative ambition and financial pragmatism is what makes the risk-return ratio of the Saw 2004 script a work of art. The story's very elements that made it a risk also made it cheap to produce, a financial masterstroke that is rarely achieved. This leads directly to the story's immense long-term value, which is best measured by its franchise IP worth. The twist ending of Saw 2004 did more than just shock audiences. It was a deliberate and brilliant act of financial foresight. By revealing that the mastermind villain was still alive and had a complex philosophical motive, the story instantly created a world that was begging to be explored further. This gave the film a sequel potential score of a definitive 10 out of 10. A high sequel potential is the most critical factor in elevating a film's IP valuation from a single asset to a long-term franchise. This narrative choice was the catalyst that transformed the franchise IP worth of Saw 2004 from a few $1 million to an eventual franchise equity valuation of over $1 billion. This high sequel potential, in turn, opened up a massive pipeline for content monetization. The story of Saw 2004 is an engine for revenue diversification. The core narrative, with its focus on intricate traps and a villain with a teachable philosophy, is perfectly designed for content monetization beyond the initial film. Each new sequel is a direct monetization of the original story's cliffhanger. The iconic traps and the character of Billy the Puppet, both born from the script, are the drivers of merchandise sales. The game concept is perfectly suited for monetization through experiential entertainment like escape rooms and theme park attractions. The story of Saw 2004 is a perfect example of how a well-crafted narrative is not just a creative work, but a powerful financial asset, a seed that, when planted correctly, can grow into a multi-generational, multi-billion-dollar franchise. For any movie lover, the way a film looks is just as important as the story it tells, and the visual style of Saw 2004 is one of the most distinctive and influential in modern horror. This isn't a film with polished, blockbuster visuals. Instead, its power comes from a raw, gritty, and intentionally ugly film aesthetic that perfectly complements its grim subject matter. Cinematography, brilliantly executed by director of photography David A. Armstrong, was born out of the necessity of its low budget, but it became a deliberate and iconic style. The film's production design is a masterclass in creating atmosphere on a shoestring. The infamous bathroom, the central set piece of Saw 2004, is a character in itself, a disgusting, decaying space with cracked tiles, rusted pipes, and a sickly green color palette. This sense of filth and decay permeates every frame, creating a world that feels oppressive and hopeless. The cinematography of Saw 2004 is defined by its claustrophobia. The scene composition is often tight and suffocating, trapping the audience in the room with the characters. Director James Wan, even at this early stage in his career, demonstrated a unique flair for kinetic and unsettling camera work. During the flashback and trap sequences, he employs a hyper-stylized editing technique, using whip pans, crash zooms, and rapid-fire cuts to create a sense of chaos and disorientation. This dynamic visual style prevents the single-location setting from ever feeling static or boring. For anyone who has watched a behind-the-scenes featurette on Saw 2004, the biggest challenge was making this one warehouse filming location feel like a dynamic and terrifying world, a challenge that Wan and his director of photography met with incredible creativity, all while using relatively standard camera gear. When it comes to visual effects, Saw 2004 is a testament to the power of practical effects over expensive CGI. The most memorable scenes in the film are the gruesome traps, and the horror of these moments comes from their tangible, mechanical nature. The infamous reverse bear trap, for example, was a fully functional, real prop. There are very few digital VFX scenes in Saw 2004. A CGI breakdown of the film would be incredibly short, as almost all of the gore and horror was achieved in camera through clever makeup, prosthetics, and editing. This commitment to practical visual effects is a key part of the film's visceral impact. Unlike many modern horror films that rely on digital monsters or blood, the horror in Saw 2004 feels brutally real. This gritty, lo-fi visual style was a radical departure from the slicker look of mainstream horror at the time and became a hugely influential part of the film aesthetic of the 2000s, proving that in horror, sometimes less is so much more. From a financial analyst's perspective, the visual production of Saw 2004 is a perfect case study in extreme fiscal efficiency, and the entire strategy can be summarized by one core theme: the relationship between ROI versus visual complexity. In most blockbuster filmmaking, there's a direct correlation. Higher visual complexity equals a higher budget. Saw 2004 completely inverts this model. It achieved one of the highest ROIs in modern film history precisely because its visual complexity was so low. The two guys in a dirty bathroom concept is not just a compelling narrative hook. It's a brilliant financial strategy. It allowed the filmmakers to create a feature film for a microbudget of $1.2 million, a feat that would be impossible with a more visually ambitious script. This is the essence of capital allocation efficiency, spending money only where it will have the maximum impact on the final product's effectiveness, and in the case of Saw 2004, that was on atmosphere and tension, not on expensive visuals. To break down the numbers, let's look at the film's VFX budget. For a typical studio film, the VFX budget can be a massive line item, often accounting for 20–30% of the total production cost. For Saw 2004, the VFX budget was a minuscule fraction of its $1–2 million total. The spending was almost exclusively on practical effects, the physical construction of the traps, makeup, and prosthetics. This entire portion of the budget was likely less than $50,000 to $100,000. There were no significant CGI expenses, no need for expensive software licensing, and no massive rendering farms, which are all major cost drivers in modern filmmaking. This practical approach was fundamental to the film's incredible profitability. The ROI versus visual complexity is off the charts. The film delivered maximum psychological horror for a minimal financial outlay on effects. Furthermore, we can analyze this through the metric of CGI cost per minute. For Saw 2004, that number is effectively zero. The filmmakers' reliance on in-camera tricks and practical gore was a stylistic choice that had a profound and positive financial consequence. This allowed the minuscule budget to be stretched to cover the essentials, like film stock and paying the crew. The post-production spending was also managed with extreme efficiency. The film's editor, Kevin Grudert, had to assemble the film from an 18-day shoot, a process that required incredible speed and creativity. The film's signature fast-paced, highly stylized editing was in itself a cost-saving measure. It created a high-energy, dynamic feel that compensated for the static nature of the main location, all achieved in the editing suite rather than through expensive on-set camera setups. This is another perfect example of a low-cost solution that had a high-impact creative result, once again optimizing the balance of ROI versus visual complexity. The long-term financial payoff of these ruthlessly efficient visual production choices is seen in the franchise's staggering cumulative earnings. Because the initial investment was so incredibly low, Saw 2004 became profitable within its first weekend of release. This instant profitability is the holy grail for any investor. Every dollar earned from its massive theatrical run, its blockbuster DVD sales, and its decades of streaming and television licensing contributes to a mountain of pure profit. The film's gritty, timeless visual style also prevents it from feeling dated, giving it an incredibly long shelf life and ensuring that its cumulative earnings will continue to grow for generations. The smart, disciplined spending on the first film laid the financial foundation for a billion-dollar franchise. The lesson for investors is clear. In the world of genre filmmaking, a high return is not always about spending more on visual spectacle. Often, the greatest returns come from a clever concept and a disciplined approach to production, a perfect balance of ROI versus visual complexity that Saw 2004 absolutely mastered. Truly great horror film doesn't just scare you with what you see, it terrifies you with what you hear. The official soundtrack for Saw 2004 is a masterclass in auditory dread, a perfect fusion of industrial grit and orchestral tension that is as iconic as the film itself. The cinematic music of Saw 2004 was crafted by the brilliant composer Charlie Clouser. For fans of industrial rock music, Clouser was already a legend, having been a key member of the band 9 Inch Nails. His background in creating harsh, mechanical, and atmospheric soundscapes made him the absolute perfect choice to be the score composer for a film about a killer who builds intricate, terrifying traps. His work on the Saw 2004 soundtrack is not just background music, it is an essential part of the film's grimy, industrial identity. The thematic score is a constant, unnerving presence, full of metallic clangs, distorted synths, and a sense of relentless grinding pressure that mirrors the psychological torment of the characters. The soundtrack popularity of Saw 2004 is largely driven by one of the most iconic pieces of music in modern horror history. Of all the iconic tracks on the OST, the piece titled Hello Zep is legendary. This is the track that plays during the final shocking minutes of Saw 2004, as the entire puzzle of the film comes together and the true identity of Jigsaw 2004 is revealed. A fascinating piece of music production trivia is that the track was named after the character Zep, who the audience is led to believe is the killer for most of the film. The track's haunting, escalating melody, which builds from a simple, ominous piano line into a full-blown orchestral crescendo, has become the official theme of the entire Saw 2004 franchise. For fans, the first few notes of Hello Zep are an immediate trigger, a signal that a mind-blowing twist is about to happen. This track is the auditory signature of Saw 2004, a memorable theme that is just as recognizable as the themes from Halloween or The Exorcist. While Charlie Clouser's iconic score is the heart of the soundtrack, the official Saw 2004 OST also features a collection of licensed songs in the movie from various heavy metal and industrial bands, including Fear Factory and Mudvayne. This gave the album a broader appeal, attracting not just fans of film scores but also the massive heavy metal audience. The full soundtrack list is available on all major streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, where the streaming success of Hello Zep continues to this day, with millions of plays from fans who want to relive that classic movie moment. The use of Clouser's tense, atmospheric score in the film's trailer music was also a key part of the marketing, building a sense of dread and mystery without giving away the film's secrets. The soundtrack acclaim for Saw 2004 is a testament to the power of a perfect marriage between sound and image, a score that doesn't just accompany the horror, but becomes a vital part of it. From a financial analyst's perspective, the soundtrack for Saw 2004 is yet another example of the film's ruthless efficiency and incredible long-term value. It's a low-cost, high-return asset that has been generating revenue for 2 decades, and its financial success is built on a very smart and disciplined approach to its creation and monetization. The first and most important factor is the initial music budget. For a micro-budget independent film like Saw 2004, this would have been a tiny fraction of what a major studio would spend. The composer fee for Charlie Clouser, who at the time was a brilliant musician but not an established A-list film composer, would have been very modest. Based on industry benchmarks for independent films, his fee could be estimated to be in the range of $25,000 to $50,000. An A-list composer for a major studio film, by contrast, can command a fee ranging from $500,000 to over $2 million. This incredibly low upfront cost was the first step in ensuring the soundtrack would be a profitable venture. The second part of the budget to consider is the music rights acquisition. The official soundtrack album for Saw 2004 featured a number of licensed songs from established heavy metal bands. The film's music supervisor budget for acquiring these rights would have also been kept to a minimum. Instead of paying top dollar for radio hits, the producers likely made deals with the record labels that were mutually beneficial. Bands received exposure to a massive new audience through a hit film, and the film received high-energy, thematically appropriate music for a fraction of the typical licensing cost. This is a common and very smart strategy in independent filmmaking. By focusing on creating an all-original score and strategically licensing affordable, genre-appropriate songs, the producers avoided the massive costs associated with using mainstream pop music, which can run anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000 for a single track. This cost-effective approach was essential to maximizing the eventual album sales ROI. The long-term monetization of the Saw 2004 soundtrack is where its true financial genius lies, and it's built on 2 core principles: sync licensing and royalty income. The most valuable musical asset in the entire franchise is the track Hello Zep. Its iconic status makes it a prime candidate for sync licensing, which is the process of licensing a piece of music for use in other media. While its association with Saw 2004 is so strong that it's rarely used in outside commercials, its most powerful use of sync licensing is internal. It has been used in the marketing and climax of every single Saw 2004 movie. This creates incredible franchise synergy. The music reinforces the brand, and the brand gives the music its power. This single track is a workhorse asset that has been monetized 10 times over without any additional creative cost. The other, more passive revenue stream is royalty income. Every time the Saw 2004 soundtrack is sold, downloaded, or streamed on a platform like Spotify, it generates a small payment. While the per-stream payment is tiny, millions of streams over 2 decades add up to a significant and continuous stream of passive royalty income. This is what's known as a long-tail revenue stream, and it's a key part of the film's cumulative earnings. For Charlie Clouser, his initial modest composer fee was likely supplemented by a share of this royalty income, a common arrangement in independent film. This means that, like the actors who took a back-end deal, he also became a partner in the film's success. The initial, incredibly low investment in the music for Saw 2004 has delivered an ROI that is almost impossible to calculate, but it's safe to say it's in the thousands of percent. It is a perfect example of how a smart, low-cost creative choice can become a financial asset that pays dividends for decades. While a gruesome horror film like Saw 2004 might not seem like a traditional merchandising powerhouse, its incredible pop culture impact and dedicated fan base have created a surprisingly robust and enduring market for official merchandise and collectibles. Key to the success of Saw 2004's merchandise line is its focus on the film's iconic and instantly recognizable imagery. The star of the show, without a doubt, is Billy the Puppet. This creepy red-cheeked marionette on a tricycle is the face of the franchise, and the demand for collectibles based on his image is massive. We're talking about everything from high-end, screen-accurate replica dolls that are highly sought after by serious collectors, to mass-market Funko Pops that have become a staple of the franchise collectibles scene. The strategy of targeting both the high-end collector and the casual fan is a hallmark of a successful modern merchandise program. Beyond the puppet, the official merchandise for Saw 2004 also includes a wide range of other items that cater to its dedicated fan base. High-quality action figures from companies like NECA, which specialize in the horror genre, are a huge part of the market. These figures often depict Jigsaw 2004 himself or his pig-masked apprentices, and there have even been figures of the victims from some of the most famous traps. There's also a significant market for themed apparel, from t-shirts featuring iconic quotes like, "I want to play a game," to hoodies with the infamous spiral logo. For dedicated fans, the merchandise hype often revolves around limited edition releases and exclusive drops that are only available at fan conventions like Comic-Con, creating a sense of urgency and collectability that drives impressive sales. The iconic movie posters for the Saw 2004 films, with their stark and often gruesome imagery, have also become popular collectibles in their own right. What fuels this entire merchandise engine is the incredible level of organic fan engagement. The social media buzz surrounding Saw 2004 has been a constant for 2 decades. The franchise's intricate timeline and complex moral philosophy have sparked endless online debates, deep dive analyses, and a treasure trove of fan art. This constant conversation keeps the brand relevant and top of mind for horror fans. One of the most visible forms of this fan engagement is cosplay. Every Halloween, you're guaranteed to see countless people dressed as Billy the Puppet or one of Jigsaw 2004's pig-masked acolytes. This grassroots, fan-driven marketing is incredibly powerful. The pop culture impact of Saw 2004's imagery is so strong that it has transcended the films themselves and become a part of the universal language of horror. This is a level of fan engagement that many bigger franchises would kill for, and it's the secret weapon behind the surprisingly successful and long-lasting world of Saw 2004 merchandise. From a brand manager's or an investor's perspective, the merchandising strategy for Saw 2004 is a brilliant case study in niche market domination and high-margin, low-risk revenue generation. The entire financial model is built upon the highly profitable and efficient system of licensing and royalties. It's a critical point to understand that Lionsgate and Twisted Pictures do not manufacture the Billy the Puppet dolls or the Halloween masks themselves. Instead, they license the intellectual property, the rights to use the characters, logos, and imagery to specialized third-party companies. These companies, who are experts in toy manufacturing or apparel, then take on all the financial risk of designing, producing, and distributing the products. In exchange for these rights, they pay the IP holders a licensed product royalty on every single item that is sold. This is the cornerstone of the entire merchandising business, a model that allows the studio to generate millions in revenue with almost zero upfront investment or operational overhead. The financial terms of these deals are where the value is created. Based on industry benchmarks, a studio can typically earn a licensed product royalty rate of anywhere from 8% to 15% of the wholesale price of the merchandise. For a globally recognized and beloved horror IP like Saw 2004, the IP holders would be in a strong negotiating position to command a rate at the higher end of that scale, likely in the 12% to 15% range for key categories like collectibles and Halloween costumes. Now let's consider the projected sales. While the branded toy revenue for an R-rated horror film will never compete with a family blockbuster, the market for adult collectibles and Halloween products is incredibly lucrative. It is reasonable to estimate that in a year with a new film release, the total retail sales of Saw 2004 merchandise could easily exceed $10 million to $20 million globally. Applying a 12% licensed product royalty to the wholesale price of that revenue would generate a high-margin, low-effort income of over $1 million for the IP holders. This brings us to the importance of retail partnerships. A successful licensing program is only as good as its distribution. The companies that license the Saw 2004 IP have robust retail partnerships with major retailers that cater to their target audience. This includes specialty stores like Hot Topic and Spirit Halloween, as well as the entertainment sections of mass-market retailers like Target and Walmart, and of course, the endless digital shelf space of Amazon. These partnerships are crucial for maximizing sales volume, which in turn maximizes the licensed product royalty paid back to the studio. However, the true secret to the success of this program is the powerful and cost-effective marketing engine known as fan-driven ROI. Traditional advertising is expensive, but the organic passion of a dedicated fan base is free. Every time a fan shares a photo of their Saw 2004 collection on Instagram, every time a popular influencer does a cosplay of Billy the Puppet on TikTok, and every time a new fan theory gets debated on Reddit, it is acting as a powerful, credible, and completely free advertisement. This is the essence of fan-driven ROI, the financial return generated by the authentic, unpaid enthusiasm of the fans themselves. This organic buzz is what drives the demand for the merchandise. It creates a level of credibility and desirability that a paid ad campaign could never achieve. This incredible fan-driven ROI is what makes the licensed product royalty model so incredibly efficient for an IP like Saw 2004. Fans create the demand, and the studio simply collects the high-margin revenue, a perfect example of how to monetize a passionate cult following. The official trailer for Saw 2004, dropping with teaser release moments that sparked massive fan buzz, set the stage for a premiere event rivaling any competitor's press tour excitement, while the social media campaign built theatrical release hype across the globe. The story of how Lionsgate marketed Saw 2004 is a legendary chapter in film promotion, a perfect example of how a smart, aggressive, and perfectly targeted campaign can turn a small independent film into a cultural phenomenon. The first teaser release was a masterclass in building mystery. It focused on the terrifying high-concept premise and the chilling voice of Jigsaw 2004, but it strategically avoided showing excessive gore. This was a brilliant move. By positioning Saw 2004 as a psychological thriller rather than a bloodbath, the movie trailer was able to attract a much broader audience, creating a sense of "I have to know what happens" intrigue that is far more powerful than just shock value. The social media campaign, though in its infancy in 2004, was a key part of building a grassroots following. Lionsgate was an early adopter of online marketing, targeting horror forums and movie websites to build a cult following before the film was even released. The film's journey to the big screen began with its premiere event at the Sundance Film Festival, where the incredible word of mouth from audiences and critics sparked a bidding war for its distribution rights. This festival buzz was the first major step in turning Saw 2004 into a mainstream event. As the theatrical release date approached, the campaign intensified with a series of unnerving TV spots that aired during late-night programming, perfectly targeting the horror demographic. The press tour, while modest for an indie film, was effective in getting the cast and creators in front of key genre publications and websites. The single most brilliant marketing decision, however, was the timing of the theatrical release. Lionsgate scheduled the worldwide release of Saw 2004 for October 29, 2004, the weekend before Halloween. This masterstroke positioned it as the must-see horror event of the season, a tradition that would continue for the next 6 years as a new Saw 2004 movie was released every Halloween. This turned the franchise into a modern holiday institution for horror fans. After its incredible theatrical run and blockbuster success on DVD, the film's journey continued with its streaming debut, where it remains a perennial favorite, constantly being discovered by a new generation of horror lovers. The entire marketing campaign for Saw 2004 was a lesson in how to build a brand from the ground up, using a combination of clever positioning, strategic timing, and a deep understanding of its target audience. From a financial analyst's perspective, the marketing and distribution of Saw 2004 by Lionsgate is a legendary case study in turning a small acquisition into a massive franchise-launching asset. The entire strategy was a high-stakes bet, an investment of capital and marketing expertise that delivered one of the most spectacular returns in modern film history. The cornerstone of this investment was the film's P&A budget, which stands for prints and advertising. While the film itself was made for a tiny $2 million, Lionsgate, as the distributor, took on the significant financial risk of the marketing spend. For a nationwide release, even for a horror film, this is a major commitment. It is estimated that Lionsgate put a P&A budget of approximately $10 million to $15 million behind Saw 2004. This figure is nearly 10 times the production cost, a clear signal of the studio's immense confidence in the film's commercial potential. This P&A budget was the risk part of the equation. The reward would be determined by the marketing spend ROI. The majority of this P&A budget was allocated to media buying costs. This is the money spent on purchasing ad space, from the aforementioned TV spots to online banner ads and print advertising in genre magazines. These media buying costs are the engine of a modern film marketing campaign, designed to create mass awareness and drive audiences to the theater on opening weekend. In addition to the media buy, the P&A budget also covers the cost of creating the marketing materials, the press tour, and the distribution fees. As the distributor, Lionsgate charges a fee, typically estimated to be between 20% to 30% for a third-party acquisition, to cover the operational costs of their distribution network. All of these expenses are incurred before the studio sees a single dollar of revenue. The success of the entire venture depended on whether this $15 million bet could generate enough box office revenue to be profitable. The profitability of a theatrical release is determined by the theatrical revenue split. It is a common misconception that the studio keeps the entire box office gross. In reality, that revenue is split roughly 50-50 with the theater owners. For Saw 2004, which grossed over $100 million worldwide, this means the studio's take-home from the box office was approximately $50 million. So how do we calculate the marketing spend ROI? We take the studio's revenue, subtract their P&A investment, and see how that compares to the initial spend. Simplified calculation would be 50 M theatrical take, $15 M P&A budget, 35 M profit. Key stat: with a 15 M P&A budget and a marketing-driven profit of $35 M, the estimated marketing spend ROI is over 2.3x. This is a phenomenal return for a single film's theatrical run. For comparison, many major blockbusters with a P&A budget of over $150 million struggle to achieve a 2x return. To add another layer of analysis, we can look at the profit margin per screen. A successful marketing campaign doesn't just put a film in theaters, it creates demand that leads to sold-out shows. Must-see buzz around Saw 2004's twist ending meant that it had an incredibly high seat occupancy rate, which dramatically increases the profit margin per screen for both the theaters and for Lionsgate. This high level of efficiency at the individual screen level is a direct result of a perfectly executed marketing campaign. Every dollar in the P&A budget was an investment in creating a cultural event, and the incredible marketing spend ROI and high profit margin per screen are the financial proof that the investment paid off spectacularly, launching a billion-dollar franchise and cementing Lionsgate's reputation as one of the smartest marketers in the business. Fans of C7N's genre-defining twists and the Blair Witch Project's heart-pounding tension will find Saw 2004 bridges both worlds, delivering blockbuster storytelling moments that rival franchise-level hits now streaming on Netflix, HBO Max, or Disney+. When you're trying to understand the impact of a film like Saw 2004, it's essential to look at the landscape it was born into and the similar movies that either paved the way or were left in its wake. The most common and artistically relevant film to compare with other films is David Fincher's 1995 masterpiece, C7N. Both films feature a brilliant, philosophical serial killer who uses elaborate and gruesome methods to punish his victims based on a moral code. Both are dark, atmospheric thrillers that culminate in a shocking, game-changing twist ending. However, where C7N is a slick, A-list detective procedural, Saw 2004 takes that core concept and drags it into a much grittier, more visceral, and hands-on horror space. It's the punk rock answer to C7N's orchestral score. In terms of its financial and cultural impact as an independent film, the most important of all franchise comparisons is with the Blair Witch Project. Both Saw 2004 and Blair Witch were micro-budget indie films that became global phenomena through a combination of a brilliant high concept and a revolutionary marketing campaign. They are the twin pillars of modern, low-budget horror success, two fan favorites that proved you don't need a massive budget to create a massive cultural footprint. They are both considered top films in the genre of found footage and psychological thriller, respectively, and they both completely reset the bar for what a successful independent film could achieve at the box office. At the time of its release, the primary box office competition for Saw 2004 came from two dominant trends in horror. The first was the wave of Japanese horror remakes like The Grudge, which was its direct genre rival during the 2004 Halloween season. These films were slick, studio-produced supernatural ghost stories. Saw 2004, with its grounded, mechanical, and non-supernatural horror, felt like a breath of fresh, albeit putrid, air. It offered audiences a completely different kind of scare. The second trend was the slasher film, which had been revived by Scream in the late 90s. Saw 2004 also broke from this mold. It wasn't about a masked killer chasing teenagers. It was about the psychological torment of its victims and the moral choices they were forced to make. This unique positioning allowed Saw 2004 to carve out its own space and appeal to an audience that was hungry for something new and different in the horror genre. From a market analyst's perspective, launching a film is a strategic exercise in capturing market share, and to understand the success of Saw 2004, we must analyze its competitive position through the dual lenses of market share projection and saturation risk assessment. The horror market in 2004 was healthy but dominated by a very specific type of product, the PG-13 supernatural remake. To begin our analysis, we need to look at the comparative revenue of the key players. The biggest competitor, released just a week before Saw 2004, was Sony's The Grudge. It was a massive hit, grossing over $187 million worldwide. This set a very clear benchmark for what the market could bear for a mainstream horror film during the Halloween season. The next step is a budget versus performance analysis of this key competitor. The Grudge was produced for a lean $10 million, giving it a fantastic 18.7x return on its production budget. This is a crucial metric as it helps to establish the genre ROI average. For a successful studio-produced horror film in the mid-2000s, a return of 10x to 20x was considered a home run. This is the financial landscape that Saw 2004 was about to enter. The initial market share projection for an unknown, R-rated independent film like Saw 2004 would have been extremely conservative. An analyst might have projected that it could capture a small slice of the horror pie, perhaps grossing $20 to $30 million domestically, which would have still been a phenomenal success given its tiny budget. However, this market share projection had to be weighed against a very real saturation risk assessment. The market was already being served by a massive PG-13 hit in The Grudge. The risk was that the audience for horror films in that specific 2-week window had already been captured. This is the essence of saturation risk assessment, analyzing whether the market is overcrowded with similar products, which can cannibalize sales and limit a film's potential. Key stat: the horror genre in Q4 has a historical market share of 15% of the annual total, but with a PG-13 behemoth like The Grudge already dominating, the saturation risk for a new R-rated entry was extremely high. This is the critical juncture where a film's unique selling proposition becomes its most valuable financial asset. The final verdict on the investment comes down to the risk-adjusted ROI. This metric takes the potential upside of the market share projection and tempers it with the potential downside of the saturation risk assessment. While the risk of market saturation was real, Saw 2004 had a secret weapon. It was a completely different kind of horror film. It wasn't competing directly with The Grudge for the same audience. It was offering an alternative for viewers who wanted something more intense, more psychological, and more adult. This brilliant counter-programming is what allowed it to shatter its initial market share projection. It didn't just capture a small slice of the pie, it proved the pie was much bigger than anyone realized. The film's final gross of over $100 million represents an 86.5x return on its production budget, a risk-adjusted ROI that is almost off the charts. Proved that in a saturated market, the best way to succeed is not to compete, but to offer something completely new. From meme references of its most iconic scene to viral fan clips that sparked massive social media reactions, the cultural impact of Saw 2004 rivals any competitor's pop culture influence, creating fan engagement that lives on through TikTok clips and Reddit theories. Film truly achieves immortality when it escapes the confines of the theater and becomes a part of the cultural lexicon, and Saw 2004 did this with the brutal efficiency of a Jigsaw 2004 trap. The most immediate and enduring piece of its legacy is the simple, chilling phrase, "I want to play a game." This is one of the all-time great fan quotes in horror history, a line that instantly became a global meme reference. It has been parodied, remixed, and referenced in countless other pieces of media, a perfect example of a viral moment that transcended its source material. The other cornerstone of Saw 2004's pop culture influence is the unforgettable imagery of Billy the Puppet. The creepy marionette on the tricycle is not the killer, but he is the face of the franchise, a terrifying herald of the horror to come. This visual became an instant iconic moment in horror cinema, leading to an explosion of fan-driven content. Every Halloween, the internet is flooded with pictures and videos of people dressed as Billy, a testament to his enduring design. Even today, you can find thousands of TikTok clips that use the sound of his creaky tricycle or his distorted voice for comedic or scary effect. These modern internet trends show that the cultural impact of Saw 2004 is still as potent as it was 2 decades ago. The fan engagement with Saw 2004 goes much deeper than just memes. The film's intricate, serialized plot and complex timeline have created a paradise for dedicated fans who love to dissect every detail. This is where you see the power of online communities. Subreddits and forums are still home to countless Reddit theories where fans debate the timeline, rank the traps, and discuss the moral philosophy of Jigsaw 2004. This is a level of deep, analytical fan engagement that is usually reserved for sprawling sci-fi or fantasy epics. Fans also love to hunt for Easter eggs and share fun facts, like the fact that the entire film was shot in just 18 days. The massive word of mouth that propelled the first Saw 2004 to success was a direct result of these positive fan reactions. People left the theater stunned by the ending and immediately had to tell their friends, creating a powerful, organic marketing machine. The cultural impact of Saw 2004 is not just in the trends it started, but in the dedicated, passionate community of fans it created. From a digital marketing strategist's or an investor's perspective, cultural impact is not a vague, abstract concept. It is a measurable, monetizable asset that can generate a massive return on investment. The incredible organic buzz that surrounded Saw 2004 is a perfect case study in the power of viral marketing ROI. Every time someone quoted the film, shared a meme, or told a friend you have to see the ending, they were acting as an unpaid brand ambassador. This word-of-mouth marketing is the most powerful and credible form of advertising, and for Saw 2004, it was worth millions. Key stat: a successful viral marketing campaign can lower paid media costs by an estimated 20–30%. For Saw 2004, the viral buzz likely had an even greater impact, allowing its modest marketing budget to perform with the efficiency of a campaign many times its size. This is the essence of viral marketing ROI, achieving a massive marketing result for a minimal financial outlay, a principle that is at the heart of the entire Saw 2004 financial success story. This high level of organic engagement also leads to a significant CPM uplift from engagement. CPM, or cost per mil, is the price advertisers pay for 1,000 impressions. Social media algorithms and advertisers consider content that generates high engagement likes, shares, comments to be more valuable. The official social media pages for Saw 2004, as well as popular fan accounts and YouTube channels that discuss the franchise, become highly valuable digital real estate. Passionate engagement of the horror community means that ads placed alongside Saw 2004 related content are more likely to be seen and clicked on, which allows the platform to charge a higher CPM. The CPM uplift from engagement is a form of indirect monetization, where the cultural buzz makes the entire digital ecosystem around the brand more profitable. It turns the passion of the fans into a tangible, revenue-generating asset. The massive cultural footprint of Saw 2004 also dramatically increases its brand partnership value. While a gory, R-rated horror franchise might not be a fit for a family-friendly brand like McDonald's, it is an absolute dream partner for companies that cater to the horror and Halloween market. The most significant and lucrative example of this is the long-standing partnership between Saw 2004 and Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights. Saw 2004 themed maze is a major draw for the event, and the brand partnership value of such a deal would be substantial, likely involving a licensing fee in the high six figures or even over $1 million for each event. This is a perfect example of engagement-driven revenue, where the passion of the fans for the film translates directly into ticket sales for a live event, creating a new and highly profitable revenue stream for the IP holders. Finally, the film's status as a cultural icon allows the studio to charge a significant IP licensing premium. When a company like NECA wants to make a collectible figure, or a video game company wants to license the brand for a game, they are not just licensing a movie. They are licensing a piece of horror history. The brand's proven track record and massive, built-in audience mean that the risk for the licensee is much lower. Therefore, they are willing to pay a premium for the rights. This IP licensing premium is a direct financial benefit of the film's cultural impact. The incredible viral marketing ROI created the brand, the CPM uplift from engagement proved its digital value, and the high brand partnership value cemented its A-list status within its genre, all of which allowed the studio to command a higher price for its IP. This is how cultural buzz is systematically converted into a powerful and sustainable financial advantage. While it may not have received Oscars nominations for its outstanding performances or glamorous Golden Globe wins that sparked massive mainstream awards buzz, the critical acclaim for Saw 2004 rivals any competitor's film festival highlights, earning a surprisingly solid Rotten Tomatoes score and glowing, passionate audience ratings across all streaming platforms. For a gritty, brutal, and unapologetically low-budget horror film, the journey of Saw 2004 through the often snobbish world of critical reception is a remarkable story of defying expectations, challenging conventions, and winning over even the most hardened skeptics through sheer, undeniable ingenuity. The film's life did not begin with a star-studded premiere in Hollywood, but on the prestigious, snow-covered stages of the 2004 Sundance Film Festival, one of the most important and influential festivals in the entire world for independent cinema. To understand the magnitude of this, you have to understand what Sundance represents. It is the kingmaker, the platform where careers are launched and where cinematic legends are born. This is where Quentin Tarantino first unleashed Reservoir Dogs, where the Blair Witch Project first terrified audiences, and where countless other small, personal films were discovered and propelled into the global spotlight. Simply being accepted into an official selection at Sundance was in itself a colossal win for Wan and Leigh Whannell. It was an immediate and powerful stamp of artistic legitimacy, a signal to the entire industry that Saw 2004 was not the kind of direct-to-video schlock it could have so easily been mistaken for based on its visceral premise. This was a film with a brain, a film with something to say. The fan reactions at those initial midnight screenings in Park City were reportedly the stuff of legend. The palpable tension, the audible gasps, and the explosive, stunned reaction to the final, jaw-dropping twist created the kind of organic, electric word-of-mouth that marketing departments can only dream of. That authentic buzz is what led to its acquisition by Lionsgate, a studio that saw 2004 not just a horror movie, but the birth of a phenomenon. When Saw 2004 was finally unleashed upon the general public in October of 2004, the critic reviews were fascinatingly, tellingly divided, which is almost always the sign of a truly groundbreaking, disruptive, and challenging piece of cinema. Many mainstream critics, accustomed to more traditional and less confrontational fare, were predictably put off by the film's unflinching violence and its grim, hopeless atmosphere. They dismissed it as gratuitous, a new low in on-screen sadism. However, a significant and highly influential portion of reviewers, particularly those who specialized in the horror genre or championed independent filmmaking, saw 2004 something much, much more. They lavished praise on its ingenious, airtight puzzle box script, its masterfully crafted tense and claustrophobic atmosphere, and of course its now legendary twist ending, which was almost universally hailed as one of the greatest and most satisfying in modern horror history. This critical split resulted in a final Rotten Tomatoes score of 50%. On paper, a 50% is a rotten score, a failing grade, but context is everything. For a film that was unfairly lumped into the controversial torture porn subgenre, a 50% is practically a glowing 5-star endorsement. It signaled to curious audiences that there was a fierce debate to be had, that there was something more complex going on in Saw 2004 than just mindless gore. More importantly, however, the audience scores told a completely different and far more decisive story. The audience ratings for Saw 2004 were, and remain, overwhelmingly positive, currently holding a stellar 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. This massive telling gap between the official critical consensus and the public's verdict is a classic hallmark of a future cult classic. It showcased that the film was connecting with its intended audience on a deep, visceral level, bypassing the traditional critical gatekeepers and forging its own path to success through pure, unadulterated fan passion. While the major mainstream awards like the Oscars and Golden Globes were never a realistic or even desired goal for a film like Saw 2004, it did generate significant awards buzz and recognition within the horror and genre film community. It received nominations and won awards at genre-specific festivals and award bodies around the world, consistently recognized for its originality, its bold vision, and its incredible, undeniable impact on the horror landscape. Over the nearly 2 decades since its release, its critical reputation has only grown stronger. It is now widely regarded as one of the top-rated movies of the 2000s, a genuine must-watch film for any serious horror fan, and is frequently included in academic discussions about the evolution of the genre. The lack of mainstream nominations does absolutely nothing to diminish its legacy. On the contrary, it actually solidifies its status as a true, uncompromised cult classic. It was a film that was chosen and championed by its audience, and its cultural influence has far outlasted many of the more critically acclaimed, but ultimately forgettable, films of its time. The ultimate award for Saw 2004 was never a golden statue. It was the passionate, unwavering, and enduring support of its millions of fans across the globe. From a cold, hard investor's perspective, awards and critical acclaim are not simply about prestige. They are financial tools, strategic assets that can be leveraged to increase profitability. However, the financial story of Saw 2004's acclaim is a fascinating inversion of the traditional Hollywood model. Its immense value was derived not from spending millions to chase awards, but from achieving a powerful, alternative form of validation that cost almost nothing and yielded spectacular returns. The analysis must begin with the award campaign cost, or in this case, the profound lack thereof. For a major studio to position a film for the Academy Awards, the investment is enormous. Full-scale For Your Consideration campaign, with its targeted ads, private screenings, and lobbying, can cost anywhere from an estimated $5 million to over $15 million. This is a high-stakes gamble, a second budget spent on top of production and marketing in the hopes of securing a nomination. Saw 2004, on the other hand, likely had an award campaign cost of exactly $0. Its campaign was its Sundance premiere. The buzz generated at that festival was its For Your Consideration ad, and it was entirely organic and free. This represents the film's first and most staggering financial victory. It achieved the industry-wide recognition and distribution deal momentum of a prestige indie darling without spending a single cent on the traditional, money-hemorrhaging awards circuit. This is the very definition of capital efficiency. This leads us to the concept of the post-award revenue boost and how it functions as an ROI multiplier. A typical Oscar-winning film sees a significant box office bump after its win, as audiences rush to see the best picture. Saw 2004 experienced a similar phenomenon, but from a different source. Its award was the Sundance selection and the subsequent rave audience scores. This created a powerful, non-traditional form of award-driven revenue. The Sundance seal of approval acted as the first ROI multiplier. It transformed a $1.2 million film from an unknown quantity into the most talked-about horror film of the year. This directly led to a lucrative distribution deal with Lionsgate, a multi-million-dollar return on investment before a single ticket was even sold to the public. The second and more powerful ROI multiplier was the fan-driven word of mouth. The glowing audience scores and the desperate, urgent need to talk about the twist ending created incredible legs at the box office. Typical horror film is notoriously front-loaded, dropping 60-70% in its second weekend. Saw 2004, buoyed by its must-see reputation, had a much stronger hold, allowing it to leg out to a domestic gross of over $56 million. This sustained theatrical run, driven by audience acclaim, is a direct form of post-award revenue boost, with the award being the passionate endorsement of the fans themselves. Finally, we must analyze the concept of prestige pricing and the film's unique critical acclaim multiplier. A film with a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and a slew of Oscar nominations can command prestige pricing when being sold to international markets or streaming services. While Saw 2004's 50% score wouldn't qualify for that in the traditional sense, the nature of its critical reception created a different, equally valuable form of prestige. The critical acclaim multiplier for Saw 2004 was about establishing its brand as intelligent horror. The positive reviews from respected genre critics and the intense debate it sparked gave it a level of intellectual credibility that separated it from its peers. This allowed Lionsgate to use a form of prestige pricing within the horror market. When negotiating the all-important DVD placement with giants like Walmart, Target, and Blockbuster, they weren't just selling another slasher film. They were selling the most original and talked-about horror film of the year. This crucial distinction leads to better shelf space, larger initial orders, and a higher perceived value. The same critical acclaim multiplier continues to drive its value in the era of streaming monetization. A film with this much discussion, a legendary twist, and a reputation as a must-see genre classic becomes an essential library title for streaming services looking to attract horror fans. Platforms like Shudder, Peacock, or Hulu will pay a premium to license Saw 2004 because it is a known quantity, a reliable asset that drives subscriptions and engagement. This is a powerful, long-tail revenue stream directly fueled by the film's unique and hard-won critical legacy. In the end, Saw 2004 achieved the most desirable financial benefits of critical acclaim: a massive marketing buzz, enhanced brand value, and long-term profitability without shouldering any of the enormous costs, creating a hyper-efficient financial model that is still the envy of the industry. From a financial analyst's perspective, awards and critical acclaim are not just about prestige. They are about third-party validation that can be leveraged to increase a film's value and profitability. For a film like Saw 2004, this validation came not from the Oscars, but from its Sundance premiere and its strong audience scores, and these accolades acted as a powerful ROI multiplier and an even more important critical acclaim multiplier. First, let's consider the cost. A major Oscar award campaign cost for a studio can run anywhere from $5 million to over $15 million. Saw 2004's path to recognition was far more cost-effective. The primary investment was in getting the film into the Sundance Film Festival. The festival acquisition ROI on this small investment was arguably the most significant financial event in the film's history. Buzz generated at Sundance led directly to the multi-million-dollar distribution deal with Lionsgate, turning a small, self-financed film into a nationwide theatrical event. The most direct financial benefit of this festival buzz and the positive reviews that followed was the ROI uplift from critical acclaim. For a film as intense and potentially off-putting as Saw 2004, positive reviews and strong audience scores act as a permission slip for mainstream audiences. They signal that the film is not just a cheap gore fest, but a smart thriller that is worth their time and money. This validation was a powerful ROI multiplier on the marketing spend. It amplified the effectiveness of every trailer and TV spot, helping the film break out of the hardcore horror niche and attract a much broader audience. This led to a significant post-award revenue boost, with the award in this case being the stamp of approval from Sundance and the glowing audience ratings. This buzz can be directly credited with helping the film achieve its incredible $100 million worldwide gross. The long-term value, however, is where the critical acclaim multiplier truly comes into play. A film that is regarded as a classic or a genre-defining work has a much longer and more profitable life than a disposable piece of entertainment. This prestige allows the studio to engage in a form of prestige pricing. When negotiating for streaming monetization rights or international television deals, a film like Saw 2004, which is a recognized landmark in the horror genre, can command a much higher licensing fee. Key stat. A film with a strong cult classic status can often see its long-term streaming and licensing value increase by an estimated 25–40% compared to a similarly performing but less respected genre film. This critical acclaim multiplier also leads to a significant streaming royalty bump, as the film becomes an essential part of any streaming service's horror library, especially during the lucrative Halloween season. The award-driven revenue for Saw 2004 may not have come from a golden statue, but the financial rewards from its critical and audience validation have been just as, if not more, valuable in the long run. As Saw 2004 cements its film legacy with a franchise potential that rivals any competitor's universe expansion, fans relentlessly speculate on sequels and spin-off ideas, while the director's next projects and upcoming movies hint at a thrilling future that continues to shape modern horror. To truly understand the monolithic impact of this franchise, we have to go back to 2004. The horror landscape was dominated by glossy J-horror remakes like The Ring and The Grudge and the dying embers of the self-aware slasher craze. Then from the shadows came a low-budget Sundance sensation that was raw, grimy, and terrifyingly intelligent. The legacy of the original Saw 2004 is not just that of a single brilliant film. It is the story of a cinematic milestone, a lightning-in-a-bottle event that launched one of the most successful, profitable, and enduring horror franchises in modern history. The cinematic impact of that first film, made for pocket change by two unknown Australian filmmakers, was so profound, and its now legendary twist ending so perfectly and diabolically open-ended that the franchise potential was not just obvious. It was an inevitability. The creative genius of Saw 2004 lay in its core conceit. This wasn't another masked, silent killer hacking up teenagers. The creation of a villain like John Kramer, Jigsaw 2004, a man with a complex, albeit twisted moral philosophy, was a narrative masterstroke. He wasn't a killer in his own mind. He was a teacher, a life coach forcing his victims to appreciate their lives through horrifically visceral games. This philosophical underpinning, combined with a method that could be inherited and carried on by apprentices, was the perfect narrative engine for a long-running series. It allowed the franchise to continue long after its main antagonist was gone, creating a rich and complex mythology that has sustained it for over a decade and a staggering 10 feature films. The game, as it turned out, was designed to be played again and again and again. The official franchise roadmap for Saw 2004 has been a fascinating and often labyrinthine journey of sequels, prequels, and spin-offs, each installment adding a new, often contradictory, layer to the intricate and notoriously convoluted timeline. Yet despite the narrative complexity, the fan anticipation for each new film remains incredibly and consistently high, a powerful testament to the unwavering strength of the core concept and the brand's loyal following. The recent resounding success of Saw 2004X in 2023, which saw 2004, the triumphant and long-awaited return of Tobin to a leading role as John Kramer, and was widely hailed by critics and fans as a spectacular return to form for the series, has only intensified the global demand for more upcoming movies. This success has reignited a surge in passionate online discussion, flooding forums and social media with rumored plotlines and creative spin-off ideas. For years, die-hard fans have called for a dedicated series that explores the untold stories of Jigsaw 2004's most famous apprentices, the tragically devoted Amanda Young, the ruthlessly ambitious Detective Hoffman, or the mysterious Doctor Lawrence Gordon, a prequel that dives even deeper into the psychological and engineering genius behind the creation of the very first traps, is another idea that consistently gains traction. This seemingly endless potential for universe expansion is not just a fan's dream, it is the very key to the franchise's financial future, ensuring that Jigsaw 2004's games can and will continue for many years to come. The film legacy of Saw 2004 also extends far beyond its own universe, echoing through the incredible careers it single-handedly launched. Director James Wan has, without exaggeration, become one of the most powerful and successful filmmakers in the world, a true king of modern horror and blockbusters. His director's next project, Saw 2004, apply the lessons of low-budget, high-tension filmmaking to create the Conjuring universe, another one of horror's most successful and critically acclaimed modern franchises. This success then gave him the industry clout to direct billion-dollar global blockbusters like Furious 7 and Aquaman, proving his incredible range. Co-creator Leigh Whannell, who wrote and starred in the original film, has also blossomed into a celebrated and highly respected writer and director in his own right, helming universally acclaimed and brilliantly inventive films like the sci-fi action masterpiece Upgrade and the terrifyingly relevant horror film The Invisible Man. The incredible A-list success of these creators is a direct and undeniable part of the legacy of Saw 2004, a powerful and inspiring reminder of the monumental cinematic impact that a small, fiercely independent film, born from passion and creativity, can have on the entire industry. The game that Jigsaw 2004 started in that dirty, hopeless bathroom in 2004 is so much more than a movie. It has become a permanent, unshakable, and foundational pillar of the modern horror genre. As we reach our final, comprehensive investor summary, our focus must fundamentally shift. We are no longer analyzing the performance of a single film, but the total long-term financial picture of the Saw 2004 intellectual property as a whole. This is where we conduct a final cumulative yield analysis, and the results are not just impressive. They are a testament to what is arguably one of the most successful and financially efficient investments in the history of modern cinema. The long-term franchise ROI for the Saw 2004 brand is almost without parallel in any industry. Let's break down the initial investment. The first film was produced for a micro-budget of approximately $2 million, with an additional estimated P&A spend of around $3 million. For an all-in initial investment of less than $5 million, the film grossed over $100 million at the worldwide box office, an immediate return of over 20x. But that was just the opening move. When you factor in the massive, high-margin revenues from the DVD boom of the mid-2000s, the ongoing value from streaming rights, consistent income from merchandise and licensing deals like the Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights attractions, and the box office from 9 subsequent films, the total cumulative revenue generated by the Saw 2004 IP is likely in the staggering range of $1.5 to $2 billion. This represents a long-term franchise ROI that is, conservatively, well over 1,000 times the initial seed investment. It is a figure so colossal it almost defies belief. This incredible, almost miraculous return was achieved through the systematic and ruthlessly brilliant application of the ROI multiplier concept. The original Saw 2004, was the initial high-risk, high-reward investment that struck gold. Each subsequent sequel then acted as a powerful and highly reliable ROI multiplier. The studio Lionsgate perfected a business model that was the envy of the industry. They turned the franchise into an annual Halloween event, a predictable and bankable revenue stream. These sequels, which were all produced for remarkably modest budgets typically between a lean $10 million and $20 million, were built on the massive brand recognition and the established narrative foundation of the original. They were, from a studio perspective, relatively low-risk investments with a virtually guaranteed built-in audience. Key stat: top-tier franchises often see an ROI multiplier of 3-5x with their first sequel alone. For Saw 2004, the first few sequels, like Saw 2004 II and Saw 2004 III, which were produced for under $10 million and grossed over $147 million and $164 million respectively, likely had an even higher and more efficient ROI multiplier. The cumulative yield analysis shows that the franchise is a perfect textbook model of franchise lifecycle profitability, a low-cost, high-impact entry point that is then leveraged through a series of cost-controlled sequels, each one multiplying the return on the original concept and compounding the overall value of the IP. Of course, the future of the franchise is not without its challenges, and a responsible analysis must acknowledge the inherent risks. The sequel investment risk is a constant factor that must be meticulously managed. As any long-running franchise ages, there is always the omnipresent risk of audience fatigue, creative stagnation, and the law of diminishing returns. A single, poorly received and underperforming film can severely damage the brand's momentum and erode audience trust. We saw 2004, this with installments like Jigsaw 2004 and Spiral, which, while still profitable, did not perform to the level of their predecessors. However, the true financial genius of the Saw 2004 business model is how it inherently mitigates this risk. A Saw 2004 sequel does not need to gross $500 million to be a success. It can be wildly profitable with a global gross of just $100 million. This low financial break-even point provides an enormous safety net, making it one of the most resilient franchises in Hollywood. Even its failures are often profitable. This brings us to our final forward-looking valuation, the IP lifecycle value. This is a sophisticated estimate of the total monetary worth of the Saw 2004 IP as a standalone marketable asset. Considering its proven 2-decade track record of profitability, its deeply dedicated global fanbase, its iconic and highly merchandisable villain, and its undeniable potential for future films, television series, video games, and immersive experiences, the IP lifecycle value for the Saw 2004 franchise could be conservatively estimated in the range of $500 million to $750 million. It is unequivocally the crown jewel of Twisted Pictures and one of the most valuable and important assets in the entire Lionsgate library. In conclusion, our final cumulative yield analysis proves that Saw 2004 is more than just a horror classic or a genre-defining film. It is a financial masterpiece, a powerful, enduring demonstration of how a brilliant, low-cost idea, when nurtured with strategic precision and a deep understanding of its audience, can be methodically cultivated into a global billion-dollar asset.
If you survived this financial autopsy, slash that like button and subscribe to Profit in Frames for more dissections of the horror genre's most profitable monsters. What scary movie should we put on the operating table next? Let us know your victim in the comments below.